Hello, and welcome to the Ferret Business Podcast. I am your host, Yemmy the Ferret, aka Yemmy, aka Wicca DJ Yemmy. And with me today, I am proud to introduce to you the creator of the game Halloween Forever. That's right, he's behind the development studio Imaginary Monsters. It is Peter Oh my gosh, I'm going to mess it up now. Peter Lazarski.
The pressure is on.
The pressure is on. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Oh, how are you this fine evening?
Doing okay. Just had a big bowl of linguine with clam sauce left over from Christmas Eve, so it's pretty good.
Linguine.
Yeah.
Ooh, oh wee wee. Very nice. So I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about today. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Halloween Forever. It was on my top 10 games list this year because it came out PlayStation this year, which it counts.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit of kind of a blast from the past for me, but also I'm just glad that more people are finding it and getting a chance to see it, even for the first time. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And I was actually just wondering, tell us a little bit about yourself, because I know your game. I know your game back and forth. I've watched you play it on Twitch and work on your new game on Twitch. And I don't know much about the man behind the game.
Oh yeah, sure. So I don't know. I've always kind of been into some sort of art side of things. For the longest time, I went to school for graphic design, and I've worked a handful of different jobs, doing different freelance things, doing anything ranging from sort of new media work to illustration type stuff. And I spent a bunch of years even doing screen printing on the side for myself and with some friends. So kind of just run the whole gamut of like different things. And then a couple years back, around 2010, that's when I started working with a company in town where I live called Workin' Man, and they're a web and mobile game studio. And that was, for a while I'd been trying to kind of get out of town to go do some of this work on the East Coast or West Coast, like one of the bigger cities. And lucky for me, I found a place that did it in town, and we kind of had, a really nice relationship since then. And it was good because at least then, sort of in my day work, I was able to kind of focus on game making and game process. And I definitely have learned a lot there. I'm still there. It's a great studio. And then I think in 2014, this is after, a couple of years of off and on, trying to, it being great, doing games for clients and doing a couple of side games at work too. One thing that, if people like Halloween Forever, they should definitely check out Death State also, which was a game that Matt Leffler and I created at Workin' Man, or AKA Bread Machine Games. That's sort of like the indie side of things at the office now. And if people like Halloween Forever, they will definitely like Death State also. But we did that for, a few years, and it was really nice kind of getting to kind of spearhead some in-house, weird indie projects and things. But I was kind of hungering to be able to do games for myself on the side as well. And I think in 2014, I sat down and started really messing around with Game Maker and kind of tuning into a bunch of YouTube tutorials and trying to figure out what exactly the process was there, and sort of applying some of the 2D, art and design stuff that I had been kind of mastering for a long time, and then trying to just, figure out how to program. And, Halloween Forever was kind of the born out of that after, I think, maybe 2.5 years. I think the Steam version came out in 2016, or no,
Yes.
It might have been the itch.io version came out in 2016. It's all blurry to me just because I've been like updating it a bunch since then. But I think
Right.
2016 was like the big, it's kind of done now. And it was a lot of really nice learning and doing that stuff kind of as we go. And also 3 years ago, come January, which is right around the corner, that's when I started, I think about a year into Halloween Forever progress that January, because I started in the summer, and then the January after that, I was trying to think of a way to kind of, share some of the process and, have a little bit of like schedule to keep myself accountable to, and that's when I started doing work on Twitch for it too. So it's sort of, like a multi-layer onion or sandwich, or however you want to kind of look at it, as far as lots of different sort of good things and nice habits and learning and sort of just ways of reaching out to people, all kind of coming together in different ways and paces through it. So I'm just very happy for what the process of sitting down and saying you're going to start making your own games has meant, and what it's kind of brought to sort of my creative life. New things, but also a lot of focus as well, which has been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was the main inspiration behind Halloween Forever? Was just a love for Halloween in general?
Yeah, pretty much. It's really as simple as that. I just have always loved horror movies and just Halloween in general. I think it's my favorite holiday, and just any kind of monster pop culture stuff. It's just so much fun to kind of look at and kind of mire yourself in. I've always been drawing some kind of weird monster or something, and sketchbooks from going back to when I was a kid, and up until now. So it was kind of the almost the easiest subject matter to start working with, and just say, let me just make something, and it's going to kind of create itself in a sense, and I'm just going to put fun spooky Halloweeny weird stuff in there, and I think it's going to kind of just throw stuff at the wall until it sticks, I guess.
So tell me about all these different bosses that are in this game. Each of them are unique and special in their own way. What is that art of making that perfect boss fight? What's the design process of that?
So I think one of the things, the way that I did a lot of the bosses in Halloween Forever, and also it was kind of something that I learned in the midst of my process as far as how to manage kind of objects or instances like this, is that they're all kind of very routine based and pattern based, and it feels kind of classic and old school to me, in that when you get in there and it's kind of you're kind of like jumping into a machine that's kind of moving on its own accord, and they might kind of walk all over you or kind of bulldoze into you until you figure out the pattern. But then once you figure out the pattern, you kind of just know, I stand here during this phase, I stand here during that state, this is the good time to attack, this is when I duck. And there isn't a lot of random anything happening, except for like little baby frogs jumping around during like the Frog King fight. Everything is kind of fixed and sort of hard coded in there to like most degrees, I'd have to say. So it's sort of, some people kind of get in there and they get shocked and they kind of die immediately, but then also some people that are very used to that sort of gameplay and are used to picking out patterns, they can kind of get through it fast. It's really interesting. When I was watching sort of the public reaction, or sort of forum responses and stuff on Steam when Halloween Forever came out, and people are having all sorts of varying degreed reactions to, this game is so hard, oh my god, please add continues, to
it's the Dark Souls of platformers.
Yeah, or like I cleared it in 10 minutes, this was too easy. And it's you really can't make it for everybody, but also it's just interesting hearing how different people approach something like that, like somebody who's clearing it on their first run versus somebody who spent 30 hours on it, just kind of chugging through and getting all the unlocks and stuff and all the achievements.
Well, to like a veteran gamer, I myself didn't start in the SNES and NES. I started with the N64, so I was a little bit past this era of gaming that this game kind of emulates a little bit.
Sure.
In the side-scrolling adventure, permadeath after your 5 lives are up, stuff like that. And I think if you are trained in that era, that you can probably kind of see the patterns early on. You can know kind of what's going to happen. But to someone like me who's going into this game, I've played, like Mario and stuff like that. Like, I'm not like a complete noob when it comes to platformers, side-scrolling.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But to someone like me, like, learning how those patterns work and seeing it in action is one of my favorite parts of this game. Like, learning how to beat the guy, and then the next time you go and, maybe you die halfway through the game. Next time you go into that boss fight, you go, okay, so the Hydra, he, at the end, he goes to the top, then he goes to the bottom, then he goes to the middle. So I can kind of plan my way of attacking. And that's like one of my favorite parts of this game, and I think it's brilliant. I wish more games had like. Well, I should say this. Most games do have this pattern, but you do yours so uniquely, and it's just like the first time you face it, you're like, whoa. And then you're like, pattern.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And also, display just went to sleep. We got to make sure we aren't vanishing.
I still hear you.
I'll move my mouse every couple minutes. So one thing that was really useful to me also is, I created Halloween Forever in the way that it was kind of at its Steam launch, but also in the time between now and then have been, fortunate enough to have a lot of really valuable feedback and input by people. And also I have sort of gone through enough rounds of sort of updates and additions to the game where, people might have been asking for some sort of quality of life feature or something to kind of help them get through it at the beginning. And I may have said no originally in October 2016. But by the time I got to maybe July 2017 or whatever, I'd be kind of going through the list and, putting some extra character unlocks in or just doing some kind of support and tweak and fixes and thinking, maybe I should just, add something like a 99 lives mode or just trying to figure out different ways that I could sort of take existing systems and just give people like a simple toggle that would, you don't want just I'm dying too much to be an obstacle to enjoying the game. And also it's sort of it's been the kind of thing where over time it's been useful for me to see how features like that help people kind of get more out of it, and that is kind of what I want to be adding to games that I do. Even just something like I don't think we had a control remapping menu in at the beginning, but I tried to get it in pretty soon after because it's such a useful thing for just player accessibility. Anybody with accessibility concerns or needing, to remap controls for whatever their, preferred playing method might be, either just preferentially or like physically. That to me was a really big deal to get in because a member of, sort of my Twitch and Discord community has, some like accessibility, concerns. And we were talking about that. And I said, well, for you, I really want to help you. But now it's the kind of thing too, that now that we have these things sort of in the mindset or in the engine of stuff that I do in Game Maker, Abixis is going to have that from day one, or it already has it in now. So these are, I'm really happy to kind of identify some of these things with the first game, so to speak, so that when the second game is kind of, getting to launch and hitting its strides, I'm just kind of like borrowing and stealing all the same menus that I have from Halloween Forever because they all work and they, enable people to do certain things that are useful to them. But also the game is going to be different. It'll be balanced differently anyway. So it's just kind of interesting to see what we take with us and what kind of gets invented for the next thing.
And before we get into Abixis, I just wanted to know, what was your favorite monster to design in this game and get working? And then also, which one was the hardest one to get going and working properly?
I want to say, I think the hardest was probably, and now you're going to make me fail my own pop quiz, right? Don't know the exact names of the bosses, but the blue demon in the Porphyry Palace, he was very rewarding, but also very challenging because what it does is there's a grab attack, and I had to do some switching on and off of sort of the player object and, sort of trading kind of camera preference between objects and another, and then creating, it was like a three-step sort of handshaking process where this had to happen and that had to happen. And then you're getting thrown across the room. And it was something where, I wouldn't have dared try and build something like that when I was just beginning, but also that was some of the later content that I was making in the game. And I remember working on it on Twitch, and we're sort of, kind of just sort of rubber ducking with the chat, what could this guy do? And then somebody was saying, oh, he should grab you. And at first I was like angry. I was like, why would you suggest something like that? That's impossible. And then I just started thinking about it more, and it was like, no, actually, I think it could happen. And it was kind of a nice sort of proving point to myself as far as like, oh yeah, oh, that's pretty cool. I think maybe my favorite thing in the game was, and again too, this came from sort of a friend's suggestion, was when I was doing the world design, or the world tiles for the swamp church level, spooky church or something, and I had, there's like a literal crucifixes and stuff and stained glass windows. And my friend Dan was around in the Twitch chat, and he said, "Oh, it'd be really cool if there were frogs everywhere." And I was like, "Yes, yeah, absolutely." And we had like a whole suite of little baby frogs, and frogs sleeping in sort of chairs or church pews and things, and just it's like this weird kind of what happened to this place, and all it's overrun by all these mutant frog humanoids or something, and it was just a fun, weird little kind of microcosm world to kind of put together. And it's fun for me when I get suggestions like that from friends, and they just say, "Hey, wouldn't this be cool?" And I could say, "Yeah, actually, it is really cool. Let's do it."
Well, that's awesome that you're on Twitch and you're streaming, and you can actually get real live input from people who, they might be all the way across the world. They can give you some input on the game. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of them are. We have I've got some regular viewers in France and Australia and such, and people do really show up from anywhere. It's pretty awesome. So
you make the music in your games too, right?
No, I don't. So that is where the main part of like the collaboration lies. With Halloween Forever, it was the art and the programming by me, and music by my friend Rob Moston, who goes by BC Likes You, and he's another local guy, really awesome chiptune musician, and also a game developer, pixel artist in his own right. He put out a game called A Small Robot Story that we were sort of developing both games kind of in parallel for a while, and it was really nice. And this is just kind of more kind of fun history context. And I think when I talk to people about game stuff, and I get really excited about telling them just about the awesome positivity of the whole community aspect, is we were meeting up and just kind of talking about what each of us was interested in doing our own games, and just kind of grabbing coffee and doing something nice and social, but also getting away from our desks for a little bit. And he got so fired up about it. And also he had been he's done a lot of stuff. Rochester, New York used to have a really thriving chiptune scene, and like part of a subset of sort of just like punk music scene and such. And he'd been doing a lot of organizing for that. And he thought, we should really have a game developers meetup, because there's definitely other people around that are doing this sort of thing. And we should, try and have a venue or somewhere, just something that happens at least once a month, to get more people out to be able to, share what they're working on or do workshops. And we've been at that also for about 3 years now, to the point where, we have 2 monthly meetups, and also at the end of last year, we're still getting it set up right now, but we're in the process of setting up a co-working space and renting that out for members. And we have, a Patreon to sort of organize it, but it's all the same kind of stuff where, people come and they get to, just get away from their desk or their basement or whatever, just to see what other people are doing. Or, we have, it's like a support group for creative types or programmer types. And, people can kind of network from it too. It's really nice. But yeah, so I don't do the music myself. That was a big tangent, but and also Abixis has another composer, my friend Pete Johnson, who did most, if not the majority of the music for Death State. So we're kind of going for a similar sound there. And also Catherine DeFeo, who's a really awesome pixel artist and animator. She did a lot of work on Death State also. And these are all people that I've, worked with at one time or another also. So it's nice that we all kind of had, essentially a day job together, and then we could sort of spin off and do a little bit of the stuff on the side, and just have, just trying to keep everybody happy and busy, I guess.
Well, hey, that's great. I love the music in the game, so you can give my compliments to the chef, he would say.
Excellent. That's perfect. Yeah.
I think the music really helps like combine the atmosphere of the game and the overall Halloween theme of the game really well, and it definitely makes the experience a little bit more elevated than a game that maybe doesn't have a good soundtrack or something like that.
Yeah, music is pretty important to me. I think, and I've always I would even like to have more, soundtrack. I feel like you can never,
Can never get enough.
yeah, you can never, like, especially you think about people, and Halloween Forever has, a small enough speedrunning community, but it's people that have tested the game and kind of really kind of mastered some of the tricks and things to get through stuff. And you think for their sake, that's going to be they're going to be listening to it a lot. And also, I don't blame speedrunners too when they like play a game on mute if they don't need the music cues, just because stuff is going to be, they've heard it hundreds of times and such. But having like that kind of texture, and it sort of creates the tone for things. It creates like the sense of transition. Music and sound really adds a lot to the experience. And if something is too repetitive, you like notice it almost immediately.
So going into Abixis, which is the next game you're working on,
Yeah.
real quick, what would you say your percentage is of finishing the game right now?
I would maybe say it's really hard to say. I would want to say maybe like 20%, but it's a big 20, if that makes sense.
Sure.
It's because we've been working on it since spring of 2017, and we've been pretty steady. Halloween Forever, I took a pretty big break during the winter of 2014, 2015, and just kind of didn't touch it for a while. So sometimes stuff kind of like starts and goes, but Abixis has stayed pretty steady. At times, of course would love to be putting more time into it, but just sometimes you can't. But I think what we've been doing more than anything is, because we've been taking a chance this year to kind of bring it to some different shows and such. And we've been trying to sort of create like a really nice polished vertical slice of sort of in-person play it at a convention sort of demo content that people can touch it and say, this feels like the game is done. And that has been, some of the takeaway of like what people say when they see it. So at least it's given us kind of a yardstick as far as, okay, we have these areas of the game sort of roughed in. If we can kind of do this for the remainder of the game, and that's sort of our metric, then I think we're doing pretty good. But also some of the big things that just took a lot of time to do were, I needed to write, the lighting shaders and stuff. And I don't know how to do shaders. I was kind of just spending weeks just kind of figuring it out and, gnashing my teeth in the basement, but it all got together and it works, and it's, useful and flexible in a way. And just different things like that took some genuine time to put together. But now that we're kind of just in sort of content land for the most part, and that's the places that I feel most comfortable is, creating new assets, implementing assets, doing boss design, world design, level design, just those kind of things. We have like I think a lot of pieces have been sort of touched in different ways. They're going to fall together. I'm still not comfortable giving it like a hard will be done by date, but I can say soon. But soon is at least like another year, I'd say.
Yeah, soon is like what the most developers say when they're like, yeah, it's probably going to come out next year, but I don't want to let you get, put you down.
Yeah, soonly.
I'm loving the character designs in this new game. I mean, these monsters look freaking amazing.
Thank you.
I think my favorite one so far is this worm dude with the giant teeth and the three eyes.
Oh, yeah. He just came together recently. So that was, there's like, it's fun to make these things. And also having, one of the nice things about those guys, I still need to come up with names for all these things that just sort of have like placement object names. I think that's called Dirt Lobber and the actual IDE. But yeah, I don't know. I love making the sort of machinery of what like enemies do, and especially when you have stuff that's kind of reactive and is kind of going to hide. and like sit underground until you get close enough that it pops up and surprises you.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many different things you can do. And I don't know, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of sort of mechanics that I developed or put together in Halloween Forever that are going to come right over into this. And that just is going to save us some time and, give us a little bit more variety and a little bit quicker ways and such. So it's just so much fun working on that kind of content. I really get a big kick out of it.
So is the main character of this game going to be Demon Joe? Or is it going to be someone else?
Demon Joe is the main character. He's sort of the crux of the story. And we'll probably, I really liked in Halloween Forever having selectable characters.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably have other characters unlockable, and I'm not sure if it would actually be something that would affect the story or just be a cosmetic thing, or maybe have the ability to shift player skins mid-run. Like any one of these things is possible. We're still kind of trying to figure out like the vertical and horizontal of it.
Mm-hmm.
But Demon Joe is sort of the he's the protagonist, and he's stuck in sort of abyss demon hell prison, for lack of a better term, and left there to be kind of forgotten about.
Okay.
And then something happens, like a message or like a missive or some kind of prayer from, I guess Earth or, like the living world reaches him and kind of wakes him up, and it like stirs up this, mission in him where he's like, oh my God, somebody is in trouble. I need to help them. And also that's kind of, it puts him in this weird kind of, anti-hero place, because it's this isn't really spoiler stuff, but it's just stuff that the game is going to kind of talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Is the like demons and devils and like evil things aren't typically the things that are supposed to be answering prayers, right? So why is this, why did it kind of make it all the way down to where Demon Joe is, and he's the one to kind of take up the mantle of this mission. And also everybody along the way is saying, like, whoa, we don't do this. What are you doing? And he's kind of this like disruptive force in a lot of ways, because there's going to be, characters or NPCs. Oh, that's another big addition that Abixis has that Halloween Forever didn't, is, NPCs and sort of some like role-playing elements, or like art, like some narrative, and, having some world states that might change what NPCs may say to you at different times, or nothing like elaborate, but maybe like a small fetch quest or two, as far as, giving yourself some good reasons to kind of backtrack and kind of pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of this fun thought space that I've been really enjoying dwelling in. Other evil spirits or whatever, or prisoners in this kind of hellscape could be, surprised. They could be, telling him like, we better sit back down and stop messing around. Some of them might also get kind of inspired and, say, hey, yeah, maybe we don't have to be bad if we don't want to, or, that sort of thing. And it's kind of you kind of start disrupting the natural order of things. And, we don't need to go into like too much detail, but
right.
there's a lot of ripples from what, the way you respond as the character and just sort of start playing through the game. Like a lot of ripples kind of start spreading out from there. And, it's just kind of a fun disruptive thought experiment for me.
Awesome. I can't wait. I'll be waiting for this one, because if it's half as good as Halloween Forever, I think we're in for a real treat on this one.
Well, thanks. I hope so. Halloween Forever was just a ton of fun to work on, and just getting to see people react positively to it, and even the people that have like their complaints or feedback too. That's been nice to see too, because none of this stuff exists in a vacuum. And I guess like if I had to say anything to anybody out there who is making games or is intending to make games, or really anything kind of creative, and anything that requires the audience, like the audience is part of the dialogue that happens. I would just really encourage people just to get your stuff out there sooner, or before you think it's even done, and just let people see it and let people kind of put their hands on it and tell you what they think.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is having a strong enough individual compass as far as like what you see is good or valid or necessary to accomplish with your work, so that you're not, just getting blown every which way and like getting feature creeped by, every individual person who has, like input on your game, but also really trying to listen to people and trying to understand, if they're saying something, like what are they really asking for?
Mm-hmm.
And is it something that I can include to make it better, or just, finding people that would benefit from seeing something that you're doing. And I don't know, that to me, that's been one of the best things about having sort of like the community aspect of this too, is I'm kind of just helping to share our story as we go, but also I'm getting to see work that other people are doing. And, people I think get inspired by this stuff too. And they kind of want to pick up, their baton and sort of like jump into, this kind of like weird parade that we're doing. And that all to me is, that's up to them. But I find it really enriching too, just getting to see what other people are doing and other people say, this is a big inspiration to me. It goes both ways. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm inspired to see other people doing the stuff around me too. And like, sending it around the Discord for, input and just sharing stuff. It's so awesome. I can't diminish how important that feels to me.
Now, you've already said small things about the speedrunner community, but another community that is huge in getting games sold and getting games off the shelves is the trophy and achievement hunter community.
Oh yeah.
I was just wondering, where's the inspiration for the trophies come from that are a little bit off the wall, and also is Abixis going to have about the same amount or even more trophies?
It probably should, I think so. The trophies from Halloween Forever, I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty bad about doing all of the dimensions of this stuff. Like I have probably hundreds of hours of like old streams that I haven't put onto YouTube, but they might be up on YouTube. The couple nights that we were spending working on the trophies, it was happening. Gosh, I want to say like 3 weeks before when I was trying to launch the game, and a lot of it happened just like live development on Steam, on Twitch, and we're just sort of, all right, what works good? I have some ideas, and people were kind of helping me brainstorm stuff, and a lot of them I was just kind of looking for, ways or metrics that I could kind of track different things, like the 666 cats trophy or something from The Witch. It was just, I can keep track of that and I can save it in the save file so that it's, a metric, and then we can base an achievement off of it. Great. And I was just trying to reach sort of like an abstract critical mass of, how many trophies is enough and how many feels good. And, just trying to figure out what the hell that means, because Halloween Forever was literally my first, head to toe rodeo. And I've shipped a bunch of games, had, my hand in the pot some way or another. Death State is the next closest thing to me for, most involvement in any game of substance over a long period of time. And, I kind of was just winging it a little bit and trying to see what felt good, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And, testing it, just making sure that they were all triggering and firing right, and people weren't getting, they like wouldn't have, an unattainable achievement, I hope.
Right.
And I think Abixis is going to be a bigger world. It's going to have a bigger story. There's going to be more just start to finish, more gameplay to it. So I think by virtue of that, it's probably pretty safe to assume that we'll have as many, if not a little bit more trophies. I'm not going to put like a number on it, but there's just more. To me, there's more, space, leeway, and metrics to kind of keep track of stuff. And it's also just, it's a nice sort of outward facing measure of what happens inside this kind of private game space. Like if we have something like 16 or 20 unlockable items in Abixis, each one of those could have a trophy, and it's something that someone's going to do probably to, just clear the game at any rate. But also it ties into a system that people find value in, whether it's through Steam or like console trophy systems. And it's, it makes sense. You kind of have those hooks, and they go out and they give somebody some value that's, get them badges or whatever, or, better trophies and different things like that. So I don't know. It's a fun thing for me. And also, not everybody has to platinum every game, but also giving people the ability or like the incentive to replay something. is nice because, if the trophies aren't a pain in the neck, I don't want to do too many. I don't want to do, every trophy isn't going to be like a no hit run kind of thing. And and we have been in Halloween Forever, but there's also ways that you can sort of like gimmick some of the settings and make things a little bit easier for yourself. Or you have the ability to kind of farm extra lives up until up until a point, so that at least you're not going to be total rip run if you die twice or something like that.
Right.
So, some of those things where if, we'll have one of those probably, but I like giving people, a couple exploits if they need it, just like somewhere, even though it may not be, totally linear, just so it's not, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever do necessarily like Dark Souls difficulty games, because there's a degree of, that's just super hard, but I love that too. I love Souls games. I just don't know if I will make them personally.
So last thing about Abixis here, is there a possibility of a ferret demon being in the game?
I can add it to the Trello. I have a not short, not long list of small requests that people have kind of popped in, which I really don't mind doing, because I would say seems likely at this point.
Has there been any kind of ridiculous requests to you for people who have just kind of been commenting to you like, hey, can you put my face in the game or something like that? Nothing so literal like that. I'm trying to see what I have in here. It's a lot of this stuff is kind of just fun things that came out of conversations or Easter eggs from stuff on Twitch. Like one thing that happened was we have these little kind of red blobby people that are sort of kind of like the trapped souls in the abyss, and they kind of look like the character from like I think the Edvard Munch's Scream painting a little bit. Okay.
And one time, I think we have a clip of it on Twitch or something, we were just kind of joking around because they have their arms in the air and they're or whatever. And I think I know my buddy Wayne was there, and we're just kind of just playing up about how upset they were. They're like over something, and I drew like a stick of butter on the ground, and we just started saying like, I can't believe it's not butter. And so they've kind of got nicknamed as like the Butter Boys. And we're probably gonna have like a stick of butter hiding in in some area where they exist in the game nearby. But it's kind of it's definitely getting kind of like deep inside joke territory. But it's fun though, because for the people that are kind of stream regulars and kind of have been kind of with us since the beginning, they're gonna see it, and then they can be like, that's the guy, there he is, and get get a big rise out of it. And
right.
Also share that story with other people, and it's fun. It's sort of like welcome kind of to like the culture of what we do, and people get excited about it. I don't know, that stuff to me is super fun. So I really, if I get a chance to get to all the requests, it'll be great. One thing that I've been hoping to do at some point, which my schedule got way out of whack. I was originally planning on trying to do this in the fall or the summer of this year. It didn't really happen.
Right.
But I want to do, we have a little bit of merch for the game that's sort of been stacking up and bring it to shows and things. I need to get it for sale online, just on the website. I'm pretty terrible at that. But also I would love to have a Kickstarter for the game at some point. Not a fund the Kickstarter or rip game. More of just the game is going to happen. This is what we're doing, and also we have a lot of nice stuff that kind of comes along with it. So if you want to support the development, this is like a really easy way to do it, but also use that as sort of a way to kind of harvest. I just like if people want to kind of throw some money in to have like their name on like a gravestone in like the Hell Cemetery or something like that, and we have just sort of like a little hall of fame of people that have done that. I would love that, because we have like the systems in place. It's just creating those kind of entities and letting anybody kind of have a little bit of Easter egg space in there. Like that feels good to me, and it's also simple enough to develop that I'm not losing sleep over it.
Right.
If we get there, I'm just saying if, because I don't want that to become, like an obstacle to just finishing the game itself. But we may still do something like that, or it might just be kind of, for the chosen few that come to my like Twitch streams like on a regular basis or something. So maybe come by sometime if you want if you want to get your name out or something, or who knows. But it's there's so many different ways and things you can do to sort of get your stuff out there, but I'm also kind of conscious of I only have so much time, and
right.
They're still doing this as like a part-time thing on top of life and like a full-time job. So I don't want all the bells and whistles to stop the actual game from happening. And I won't let that happen, but it'd be nice to have all the bells and whistles. It'd be nice to have some bells and whistle, maybe, if not all of the bells and whistles. Right.
So, last thing for today, I had this question lined up for another person who was on the podcast. We didn't get to it, but I wanted to ask you this. Being a small developer yourself, being an indie developer yourself, what do you think of the state of AAA games as of 2018?
I'm not sure. I don't pay all of the attention to AAA stuff. I don't play every mainline game that comes out. Some of there are a couple franchises that I really, AAA franchises that I really get into. Probably the biggest one for me would be, I played the hell out of Skyrim, but I don't play every Bethesda release or every Elder Scrolls anything. I don't really touch MMO. But when they do the next single player follow up, I'll be all over that for sure. Like Monster Hunter games, I can't get enough of. I just love it. Souls games, I love it. But even just stuff like Pokemon, yes, sign me up. I'm in there. But I don't know. I think it's interesting, from the outside watching, stuff, different sort of trends or phases blow up. For a while, everybody was making MMOs. Everybody was trying to make, MOBAs, and everybody's making, PUBG type things. And it's all fine and good. But I wonder, and then you get a lot of, copycats, and also people are kind of desperate to try to make these sort of, survival archetype games and things. And I don't know. I'm really just kind of a spectator in a lot of that, because anything like that, any trend that is sort of happening in that space, I'm nimble in the sense, like I could start making anything tomorrow, but also it's going to take me years just to like put out my next game anyway. So I'm not really the person to kind of mobilize and say like hot dog, it's time, it's time to do this. And, I'll finish mine like 5 years later, and it'll be like a fragment of the content, and people will be like, what are you doing? So it's interesting to me from like a trivia sense, but I'm more of I kind of will probably follow sort of like my big favorites, and just sort of not let the chatter bug me too much, because I think also too, as far as what I want to do, or what I want, Imaginary Monsters as a studio to do, or like the people that, work with me on these things. Our primary focus, I think, is content over features, over innovation. Even if we can give somebody a familiar feeling game, something that it doesn't even necessarily have to have retro appeal, but it probably will, but something that feels familiar but is also brand new. That to me is, the space that I kind of want to dwell. And, and that comes out of, art and writing, and, just kind of like content development, and sort of the churn of sort of like the middle phase of development. It's not, the brand new shiny idea that you put together in a jam, and it's like fun and innovative. And it's not like the shipping phase of stuff. It's, this is like the content churn. That's like where I want to stay the most of the time, is just putting stuff in the game and making it all fit well and look nice, and make sure all like the systems work, and like everything is where it ought to be. And when you're traveling from world to world, the music changes, the look changes, the enemies change, stuff, when we have like some nice callbacks and things, a lot of that just comes out of spending time for different years writing and trying to figure out like, how do we put this stuff together. And and that's almost like immune to what could be or might be happening in like the AAA space, because I'll never have that amount of resources, or I'll never be that person with 200 employees in the studio, I assume. So I'm never really going to be worrying about that either. And it's even like sometimes when I think about potential future stuff, and I imagine like, what if I had 5 people working on a project? Oh my God, that'd be crazy. And also, probably really difficult to manage. So there's something nice about being small and just kind of being able to do this stuff as sort of like a boutique thing. And it's interesting to see what, like, oh my gosh, did you see what Sony did, or whoever. And I'll might play some of them, but I'm not gonna. I don't touch half of the stuff that comes out.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, I just want to thank one more time to Peter Lazarski for coming on the podcast, talking to me about his game and everything like that. Remember, he is the developer behind the game Halloween Forever, which is available now on Steam and PlayStation 4, so make sure you go pick that up if you want to.
Also on the Vita.
Oh, the Vita too. There you go.
Yes.
He also has a YouTube channel, a Twitch channel, an official website for his development studio, Imaginary Monsters, which will all be linked down below. His website's pretty cool. You can see his artwork, you can see comic books that he's written, and everything else that he's working on. So make sure you check that out as well. Peter, is there anything else you want to say before we end the podcast?
Yeah, I do want to give a call out to Poppyworks, because Poppyworks is who we worked with for our console porting for Halloween Forever, and Wolfgang's a super sharp dude, really really helpful in the whole process. And anybody, especially that is coming from the game maker side of things, that is looking to do console stuff, they should hit him up. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's doing good work. And we're on PS4, Vita now, and hopefully more consoles in the future for Halloween Forever, and then we'll see what comes next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. I'd love to see it on every console.
Me too.
All right, well, hey, thanks for coming on once again. I am your host, Yemmy the Ferret, and this has been another episode of the Ferret Business Podcast.